All right, everyone. Hello, my name is Batul from BHS Image Consulting. I am so excited to have Erin Duffy, seasoned executive present coach, joining us today. Thanks so much, Erin, for joining us.
Absolutely. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I know you just got back from vacation, so hopefully you're rejuvenated and
Absolutely.
you are ready to jump right back in here. I did kind of want to start off a little bit about how we were connected through a mutual colleague. And I know being a new entrepreneur kind of on this path for a few years, that idea of having to reach out to someone new, to be in the spotlight, to make ourselves vulnerable can really be a bit daunting. And
Mm,
so I know when I connected with you, it was so nice because you made me feel so welcome and
mm,
comfortable, which, was really good to ease my spirits. And I felt like we had known each other forever. We were chatting about all the things. And what really struck me was just your commitment to teaching your craft
mm,
and knowing how important executive presence coaching really is to those
mm.
business leaders and entrepreneurs who really find themselves in the spotlight, whether they like it or not, but really
Exactly.
teaching them how to embrace it and be comfortable in their most authentic selves. So thank you for taking the time out because I'm like, we need to do this. I need to get Erin on a call so we can have this discussion. So, and I'll go ahead and share a little bit more about you with everyone who is tuning in. So you are an executive presence coach, and you specialize in empowering those business leaders and entrepreneurs to really shine in that spotlight. Like I just said, sometimes we shy away from it, but it's a place where we find ourselves and a place of growth. So you focus on the synergy of personal brand and stage presence.
Mm,
Working with individuals who are uncomfortable in those various public forums, and so you really guide them to exude that confidence and authenticity, which I think is a really good word,
mm.
authenticity, to have included in there. And so you're a transformative coach, and you address the challenges that professionals face on camera, in meetings, and speaking engagements. And so what I thought was really nice that sets your work apart from others is that it goes beyond conventional techniques, right?
Right.
So you're not just, here's the script, here's the role you have to play, but really emphasizing what you call that inner game
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
connecting your clients with their authentic selves. And so your unique style of coaching empowers your clients to supercharge their personal power and presence, leveraging their unique personal stories. And so by harnessing those power of the narratives, individuals are able to elevate their careers and create a magnetic stage presence that effortlessly, which is also something we love,
Yes.
attracts those clients and partners.
Yeah.
And so for, myself and others listening, it's like, well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
But how do I get there?
Yeah.
I have the academic prowess, I have years of experience under my belt, but I'm kind of coasting along. And
Hmm.
so how wonderful would it be to feel comfortable in my authentic self and to really feel confident when I'm thrust into these public forums and on stage speaking. But how do I get there? Right.
Yeah.
And so I
Hmm.
know you weren't always in this space. You started out in kind of the corporate
Hmm.
and other fun activities that you engaged in. And so tell us a little bit more about kind of where you started and how you got to this space of executive presence coaching.
Sounds great, and thank you so much for that intro. And I have to say, to you as well as the audience, that I fully agree. Like as soon as we met each other, and I'm so grateful to our friend and colleague Natalie that connected us because it was almost like we had known each other, as you had said, for years. It was so easy, and we have so much synergy and so much in common as far as how we are guiding and teaching and helping business professionals, executives really shine in their light. And I really just love that connection that we have. And it's just so much fun to be with you today. And it's a great question. You're right. I did come from the corporate space. I spent, over 25 plus years in Silicon Valley working at a creative agency. And majority of my clients were all the big companies in Silicon Valley. You name it, they were probably a client of mine, of my company. At the same time, I had what I call a dual career. I was also a singer-actor, professional singer-actor. So I was doing a lot of stage work, a lot of singing and acting, as well as doing what I call like jazz and cabaret singing. So I did a lot of gigs and clubs and at parties and events. And so I would say for 25 plus years, I was managing this dual career. I was climbing up the ladder in my corporation. I started out as, sort of an account manager, and I, rose up to the ladder as a senior executive in the agency, and at the same time doing the same thing in my theater career. And what happened was, around that sort of 2015-16 timeframe, I was sort of feeling this call to merge my two careers together. And what's fascinating about that is at that time, Batul, it was like, what is that? Do you know what I mean? When you think, executive in a creative agency in Silicon Valley and a singer-actor, what is that? And what I realized, it came to a point where it was time for me to really pursue and figure out what that was. And so I did leave my corporate job. And I even slowed down things in my theater world, because even as much as I loved performing, singing, theater, I also found that was also becoming, the same. It wasn't as exciting. And I couldn't picture myself doing the same thing for the next 30 years. I thought, I know there's something more I can do with this. And I did take that step away, and I did do some real soul searching and figuring out, what does Erin want to do next? And doing some of that deeper work, which I'm really the creator of the inner game for myself. That is part of my process, figuring out, what was it that I love to do, and what was it that I could do to inspire others. That was what was really driving me. So merging both my business and my theater career came, we're merging those together. I created my company, which I call InspirationSQRD. And that is really about that personal branding and stepping into your personal story and owning who you are, owning your voice. And that is from a career standpoint, and as like from a stage presence or an executive presence standpoint. And when I was able to realize, if I could help, business professionals step in and own their voice, they will have no competition. And when I realized that, when I knew that I had the tools and the skills and the experience and wisdom to share that and help business professionals really step in and own their voice, I realized this is what I need to do. And that was how I started to create my business, which really started with more of the career transformation stuff, which is a program called Own Your Story, Change Your Life, which is a transformational career program that helps that mid-career professional really find what they want to do next and really take all of that wisdom and skills and experience and really get them on a road of transformation, career transformation that's unlike anything else. And it was through that I started to step into the executive presence piece as well. So I have a stage presence executive presence program that taps into the same philosophy, which is, if you get to know who you are, and that's that inner game, understanding who you are and really owning who you are and claiming that, doing that work first, and then stepping out, and which is what I call the outer game, you are owning that stage. You're no longer making it what I call a transactional thing. And a lot of times you'll have a speaking coach, which are great, by the way. I love speaking coaches, will help you get ready for that event. They'll help you. Where do I stand? How do I feel comfortable on this stage? How do I, speak to them? All that they'll get you ready for that event. But then when the event is over, a lot of times that business professional, that executive will be like, oh, phew, it's over. And then they have to get ready for the next one. And it becomes a transactional thing. And I realized that doesn't work. What I realize is what we have to do is have you take that step back and own who you are and really own and that unique self and become so comfortable and confident in who you are that every time you then step out on that stage, and as I define the stage, and you and I talked about this before, the stage is every room you walk into. As you, as a rising leader, as an executive, as a business professional, every room you walk into is a stage. So that's a one-on-one with your boss. That could be a team meeting. That could be a meeting with the board. That could be a huge event. Are you bringing that same person every single time? And that is the goal, is that you're not faking it till you make it, which I hear that all the time.
Right.
It's so common. It's so common, and we should not have to fake it till we make it, because here's the secret that I love to share with my clients is that, if I say this, everybody will go, yeah, you know what? You're right. Audiences know when we're not fully present. They know when you walk up on that stage and there's a bit of a veil and there's a little bit of a disconnect, but you're doing it. You're up there, you're presenting, you're getting it done. But they know that you don't have this deep connection with them, that you're not making that connection with. They know it. They can tell. But when they see a speaker, a leader, a professional up there speaking who is fully present and is fully connecting, the audience knows it as well. And when that happens, you are pulling your audience towards you. Your audience wants to know you. When you're done, they can't wait to come up and get to know you, shake your hand, ask you questions, because you've made a deep connection with you. And as we rise up the ladder and as we step in to, being an executive, going into the senior level, going into the C-suite, our audiences are expecting us to bring our authentic self to that room. But many, many leaders out there don't know how to do that. They're not comfortable doing that. And that is where that inner game piece comes. And that literally, Batul, that came out of both of my careers. That was the work I did as a singer-actor. How I made a connection to a song I was singing and made it my own. But I also did the same thing when I was in business, because I was working with clients at all these major corporations, helping them tell their story, right? Whether it was with marketing, collateral type of thing, getting them ready for an event, whatever it was, bringing them to that event or to that piece that they were developing. I was responsible in making sure that they were really bringing their authentic voice to whatever they were developing. And so I was able to take both and, look at both situations, right? And realize what was the common piece to that. And the common piece was really tapping into who you were, who I am, right? Knowing my story, owning that, and being comfortable and confident, being able to step out into whatever room you're walking into and bring that authentic self. And that piece really comes through that inner game work. And then the outer game stuff comes after that.
Right. And I mean, I think when you say own your voice and there is no competition is so integral, because when we are our authentic selves, no one else can be that. Right?
Exactly.
There is no one like us. And
there is nobody like
a sense of ease that you're saying the audience picks up on, or lack thereof.
Exactly.
And how establishing that connection and that rapport with whoever you are connecting with, like you said, whether it be in large gatherings, smaller meetings and things like that, makes a huge impact for sure. And so it's interesting how you kind of took your theater background and corporate experience and were able to put that together in a way to teach others through your programs. And so I know a lot of times, we hear executive presence. Oh, we enhanced executive presence. It's something that's thrown around quite a bit. Explain what that really is. Right. Because, we go to school and we rise up the ranks. And like you said, we practice for those presentations as they come across and all of those things. But what does it really mean to embody that in every situation? And what is
Yes, yes. Great question. And what I teach my clients, my colleagues is, and you tapped into it just prior to this, where, you know, we compare ourselves to others. One of the biggest pain points I hear, and by the way, I hear this all the way to the top. So this isn't just the rising leader. I'll still hear people in the C-suite will say this, that they're comparing themselves always to the person who went before them. Or maybe the person going after them, they know them really well. And God, they're so good. They're so amazing in a room. They're so good. I wish I could be more like them. And the secret is that no, 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 no. The world doesn't want you to be like them. What they want is for you to be you. And that is, again, owning who you are. And when you do and get really comfortable and confident with that, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. And so really, when it comes to executive presence, it's really about every time you, as that executive, being very comfortable, confident to bring that presence to the room every single time. And that means, even when you're delivering good news, bad news, you're talking to, the shareholders, whatever, are you comfortable and confident in who you are when you're walking the room? Are they getting you, or do you know you're sort of holding back? And by the way, everybody knows they're holding back, right? If you're holding back, gosh darn it, Erin, I hear this all the time. Every time I walk up on that stage, I don't recognize my voice. I will hear that. I don't recognize my voice. Or I will get up there and I'll get dry mouthed, or I'll look around and I suddenly feel very stiff. And I don't feel comfortable up there. And I know that I don't feel like myself. And that piece is all about presence. And the interesting thing is the audience can feel that. You can feel it, but your audience can feel it. So the presence is all about bringing your character, who you are, your authentic self, into that room. And if you're not comfortable with this is when that executive presence, coaching, teaching is really, really important, because our job as leaders is to inspire. One of our biggest jobs is to inspire our teams, to inspire our leadership, to inspire shareholders, they're looking to us to lead. And when we're not comfortable in our own voice, they're not as inspired. Our goal is to pull our audience towards us. And that's where, if you're not comfortable with your own presence, and again, you said it, and we were saying it earlier, it's your unique presence. It's who you are. And really claiming that and owning that and being confident in it and walking out on that stage every single time, people are excited. They're like, oh, I can't wait. The goal is that you want to walk out on that stage and you want the audience to go, oh God, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit back. This is going to be so great. This is going to be so great, because they know that you're going to deliver something. They know that you care, that you really, like, I've told people this, because this is something I did as a performer when I taught, because I taught cabaret performance. And one of the things I would tell my students is, your goal is, when you get up on that stage, is that you take some time, look at the audience, be comfortable, like feel your feet on the ground, feel grounded, look at them, smile, and then go. And I said, just that small thing, which, by the way, that only takes a few seconds. It's not long. But what that does is that's telling the audience, don't worry about it. I got this. Because a lot of times audiences can feel when there's a little bit of tension, where the person's not comfortable or might be a little bit off or not really connecting, they get a little bit agitated, or they'll sit up a little bit because they're hoping that everything's going to be okay, or they will check out. And our goal is we don't want our audience to ever check out, but us as leaders who have great executive presence know it's our job to keep that audience engaged. And part of that, doing that, is having incredible executive presence. And it's something that some people say, well, you know what? I just don't have it. This guy, God, he has such incredible presence. Right. Yes, people are born with it. Some people are. But I'm telling you, 70% of business leaders are uncomfortable being on stage. 70%. So I always tell people, I'm like, you're not alone. It's huge. You're not alone. It's great. You're not alone. And the good news is you can learn this. And the way to learn it, truly, and I fully believe this, and I've seen it time and time again, is not thinking about, I got to get on that stage. Help me get on that stage. No, the first thing is, let's take a step back and let's own your inner game. Because once you own your inner game, there's nothing gets in your way, because you become so comfortable, confident in who you are. You embrace that unique self and that unique voice that suddenly you are excited to share it. And people go, does that mean my stage fright will go away? I'm like, okay, that's outer game stuff. But again, stage fright, yes, it will help with stage fright. But I always tell people there's a difference between stage fright and being nervous. Stage fright is something that and I do deal with stage fright quite often with people. And a lot of times, FYI, it's about becoming confident with who you are. That helps with the stage fright. Nervous is actually really good. In fact, I used to say when I was performing on stage, I always get nervous, but it always helped my performance, because it just, as soon as I got on that stage, I was just on fire, right? Because that nervous energy helped to catapult that performance. And I used to say, the day I'm not nervous, the day I'm not kind of a little like butterflies, whatever, is probably the day I don't go on. Because that's the day I'm probably a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more egocentric or something, But I mean, not everybody gets nervous, but most people like, is this stage fright? No, it's just nerves. Use those nerves. And I actually teach people how to use those nerves. That's part of the outer game work. And it's amazing what it will do for a performance. Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, I think so many of us can relate to holding back and not really bringing our full selves to the game. And we know we're doing that. And in doing so, we're depriving others of our light and our expertise. And you talk about kind of inspiring others, because that's the point of leadership. That's why we're there in those positions, to inspire our teams and those around us. And so to hold back, we don't feel good about it, right? Because we're hiding a part of ourselves that we want to shine through. And so I know you talk about this synergy between personal branding and, your professional goals. So how do we go ahead and put that together in a way that is authentic, where it does make us feel like we can be our true selves and embrace that confidence, but still ensuring it's in alignment with our professional goals?
Right. And that was the interesting thing too, is we are responsible for our own professional goals. We really are, and they will need to align if you're working for a company, what have you. And again, that's also where that inner game piece comes into play, because you get such clarity, and that's part of your personal brand. You get clarity about your values and defining your values. You get really clear on those defining life stories that uniquely make you who you are and why you love what you do. Sometimes we lose sight of those things. And when you're able to take a step back and do that work, like the things that really excite you, the things that really drive you, and it's not necessarily about just work, those things, but when you get really clear on all of that and you really own that, suddenly you're able to clearly articulate your personal brand and also own that personal brand and then also be able to take a peek at your professional goals and see that those professional goals are aligned with your personal brand. And a lot of times we lose sight of some of that really important stuff that's uniquely us, our values, and what excites us, because life gets in the way, right? And we get working and we climb up the ladder, and we might, as we're doing that, we might lose sight of the things that
Well, partly
really.
we get cues from our external environments too. Maybe we were in spaces that were not safe to be ourselves, or,
Yes,
we've gotten those comments and that feedback here and there that really stuck with us, right? And going back to your
absolutely.
point of not being so concerned with what others are saying or thinking, right?
Right. Exactly. And we do get to a point in our career, where you will hit a point where that will come back and you'll realize I gave that so much power, and I need to look at this again. And when you look at it and realize how much you may have shut out, or because of the environment or where you were, or maybe a statement somebody made, like everybody has that story. No one's alone in this, right? But it's taking that time, that step to look at that and reassess and realize, oh, that part of me, oh my God, that's a huge part of who I am. And I don't bring that to my profession, to my daily life at all anymore. And when you reclaim it and own it, you suddenly kind of are stepping in a very different light, and you're owning that light to the point where, I have had clients who have made very different choices after they were able to rediscover, own those stories, and realign who they are now and create that personal brand and realize, the place I am right now just does not align with who I am. But I didn't have that clarity until I did this work, because I was being paid well. I was in great position,
Or maybe
a
it
great
checked
company.
those boxes, right? This is the path
Exactly.
we're supposed to take.
Exactly. And you get a point where it's like, wait, oh my goodness, what am I doing? But that, what I love about that work, that personal brand, that personal presence work, is no one is no longer telling you how you need to be. You are putting the stake in the ground. You're saying, no, this is what matters to me. This is who I am. This is what I value. This is how I show up. And when that happens, get out of the way, right? Because you're stepping into your power, and that makes you a more powerful leader. That makes you a more powerful business professional. And it also helps you to define, kind of be, you're now the driver in that car in your career, driving down this new road. You're defining it. And you might be making very different choices than you might have made 10 years ago because you didn't have that kind of clarity, and that's that personal brand, personal presence work that's so, so powerful, because it literally helps you define where you want to go next, but it also helps you to show up in any room with a lot more confidence and comfort. And that comfort piece, I think, is huge, because we've all, I can honestly tell you, I multiple stories where I've been in a room back in the day when I wanted to speak up, but I didn't, because I was afraid that I'd be shut down. My voice didn't matter. I know what that was like. I know what it was like to feel like they're so much better than me. They're so much smarter than me. All of that, and my voice got pushed down, and I pushed it down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I listened, I
Interesting that you
believe.
say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And I
believe.
know there are a lot of women that can relate to that, feeling like they can't speak up at the board meeting.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, like you said, it's kind of self-imposed because we're not
Yes.
ready to come out of that yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's very powerful. I mean, that energy shift to reclaim, reevaluate,
Yeah.
clarity,
Yes.
that's a very key word that you use to really
Yes.
become clear to build that authentic personal brand from something that's already there and comes naturally, right? So there's
Exactly.
like, you're not trying to be something or someone anymore. It's very natural
Yeah.
and it comes
Yeah.
with ease. So I mean, it's a game changer for a lot
Mhm.
of people. And yet there are challenges to get to that point. And so, having worked with so many individuals through your program,
Yeah.
what would you say are those common challenges and the solutions that you provide to really help individuals overcome them?
Yes, I think, some of the challenges that I hear quite often are something we've already mentioned,
Yeah.
especially when it comes, to presence. You know, many people thinking I've always been in the background. As a leader, I've always been in the background. Now I need to be in the foreground, and I don't know how to do that. I like being in the background, but I have to be out. I have to speak, and I don't know how to do that. How and it's fascinating. I hear this quite often. Like suddenly they've gotten a huge promotion. They're a senior leader in a company, and they're expected to be presenting to the analysts. They're expected to be presenting to the board, and wholly uncomfortable. And they don't believe they deserve a seat, and again, and yet they want to. It's just there's this wall in front of them. Like, I don't know how to do this. So I hear that one quite often. And that to me is that part of if they had a senior leader. I've gotten many senior leaders at that level, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're cracking this nut now. It's too bad they didn't do it earlier. When they were starting on the rising, like they became a director, it wasn't expected, right? But and that's why a lot of times I'm on my soapbox, speaking to, corporations, like, think about your rising leaders, those leaders that you see climbing that ladder, being tomorrow's, C-suite executives. Those people, and every company has those, work with them now. Help them with their presence now. Help them get that executive presence. Help them have a voice and be comfortable and confident when they are presenting now, or when they are in a room with the board, would help them now to attain these skills. Because in fact, I had a senior leader one time who I worked with, I loved him. And it's amazing how he just blossomed. It was so much fun. But he flat out told me, this is something I wish I had 10 years ago. I should have had this 10 years ago, because
he would have saved so much anxiety and stress. And
that's exactly what he said. He's like, oh my God. And just so much stress. He had so much stress, so much and that anxiety and fear. And so I that is one area that, man, if you have those rising leaders and you're like, oh, and especially those gold stars, right? We know every company has those, like, oh, someday she's going to be C-suite executive. You can tell, right? It's like, oh, let's encourage them now, help them now. But what we like, the one I was talking about, the one who's like, I'm in the background. Now I need to be out talking to analysts and I am so uncomfortable. I have to be in magazines and I have to be the voice on this, major podcast. Like, not comfortable at all, and the solution was the inner game. Absolutely. Like, why? And also, here's the other thing, Batul, and you probably see this too in your business. You have to be ready for this work. They have to know they need it, and they have to commit to it. I need this so bad, because let me tell you, my clients, I would say 99% of them do this work because they want to do this work and they're fully committed.
Yeah.
Because I can see, even after 3 or 4 sessions, they're already transforming, already stepping out of that comfort zone, stepping in, doing this work. And it's because they're doing the inner game. And the inner game, the inner game serious is the solution. And I always say, I'm like, we do inner game and then we do outer game. Outer game stuff is fun, right? And the reason it's fun is because you're ready for it now. You're ready to, do the practice and, develop the skills to walk up on that stage and walk in that room. And we have fun with it. But the reason it's so much fun is because you're ready for it. You've done the inner game. You're so excited about who you are. You're like, I can't wait to get out there. And it's like, boom, let's get you ready for that event. Yeah.
And that's so true. I mean, I was talking to a client yesterday and she said, I'm consistently dismissed. Being kind of the only woman in the room. She's like, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm in this space in my career where I am on that rising leaders path that you mentioned.
Yes.
And she said, I don't want to show up this way anymore. I really want to change and command that presence in the room.
Yeah.
Because she does have so much to offer, like so many individuals do. And
yes.
yet they are not allowing themselves the opportunity to showcase that and to benefit others through that when we play small. And I know, and I always enjoy your content on social media. And you have this one graphic where this is how much talent we think we have. This is how much, power we think we have. But this is how much we really have. We're just holding back.
We're just holding back.
And so that's so key that these rising leaders and business leaders, they're ready. They've been ready. They just didn't know it. They didn't know what they needed.
Exactly.
Working on that inner game, which then influences the outer game. I imagine it becomes much easier when you do the inner game.
Absolutely.
To fix that outer game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, and you hit the nail on the head. What's so cool is about when we start to rise up and we're stepping into leadership and you're going to continue to rise, you don't get to be a copy of somebody else. The expectation is when you're there, the world is looking at you as an individual and as a unique self. And they're not comparing. It's us who compare, right? Oh, I should be more like this guy, whatever. No. The people that are reporting to you, the industry that's observing you, they're looking at you as an individual. And now this is the time for you to really own that full package of who you are and bring that out to the world. Excite the industry, with who you are. It's empowering as well. It is, because no longer are you questioning your worth. No longer are you allowing, because it's weird. I mean, you see this too. The imposter syndrome thing goes all the way to the top.
Wow.
They goes all the way. There's C-suite executives out there with and that the imposter syndrome thing is us staying small. It's not it's like, no, when you own that unique, amazing self and really step into it and ground yourself into it, there is a level of confidence. And I'm not talking like egotistic at all. Not at all. In fact, if anything, it's more humbling. You'll see people just being who they are. And our job as leaders is to inspire tomorrow's leaders. And what better than a leader who's fully present and is fully leading to inspire tomorrow's leader? Because don't we want to create incredible leaders for tomorrow? I want to follow somebody who's fully present, who's fully just there, that's somebody I believe in and trust, and he's real and vulnerable and honest. That's who I want to follow. And I can tell you, if you look at it, that's who people like to follow.
And teaching that gift to others is so rewarding.
Yes.
Isn't it? To be able to see them grow and thrive. It's especially when it's your team, right? Or your colleagues. To see that is definitely an amazing experience. And for sure. So for me, I'm coming from a personal stylist perspective, right?
Yes.
And so you talk about executive presence and that personal branding, that confidence, the authentic voice. Where does a person's style and image fit into that piece?
Well, I such a good question. And that's why I love that we connected, because part of our personal brand is our style and our image. And it's really important to be really comfortable in the image and the clothes that you wear. And know, especially as leaders, who are you? when you're on that stage? Like, who are you? And have you taken the time to step back and figure that out? You know, and this is why somebody like you is so important, because, you know, the first thing people see is our image before we open our mouth, right? They see us. And are you happy with, are you comfortable? Because here's the other thing, and I think you might agree with this. And when I teach camera, because I also teach the camera confidence for senior leaders so that they know how to be present on camera. One of the things we talk about is the image, because when we're not comfortable in our clothes, the audience can tell, right? Would you not agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Literally, you have to be comfortable in your own shoes.
You do. You absolutely do. And to me, as leaders, it is so worth taking that step, that time, finding somebody, you know, like you, who can help guide. Because some people, and I've seen this in my life, many people don't know, like, what's the right thing, image for them, the right clothes, what looks good, or clothes, shopping doesn't matter, kind of thing. You know, you hear that all the time, but your image does matter. And I think it's really important that as you're dealing with, you know, developing and owning your personal brand and your executive presence, that you also think about your image as well, because they go hand in hand for sure. And you get a level of confidence from both.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I almost feel like with the work people do with you, they're getting that confidence and that clarity to step into their own power.
Right.
And you can see a shift in the way they start dressing.
Absolutely.
Because they're okay with incorporating a little bit of color or a little bit of print or accessories, anything that is more in alignment with their true selves.
Yes.
And so that shift happens at an energy level.
Yes.
With their ability to put their audience at ease. And then it's also reflected. So those two things are in alignment.
Yeah.
And when you get that together, wow, you're unstoppable.
Exactly. You
are unstoppable, and we are here to see it. We are here
Yes.
for it.
Yes, you are unstoppable. And then you're also an image of somebody that other people are going to admire. You're going to be that leader. There's people like, I really like how she's showing up, or like, wow, she really has it together. You know, he has it together. I mean, we can tell these things because we put off the energy. You know, we do. We put off energy. If we're uncomfortable, we're putting off that energy, you know, and what would it feel like if you're fully comfortable?
Sure. We're giving ourselves permission to do that. We're giving others permission to do that, and making that space for them to feel comfortable. To do that. And so you briefly touched upon how you help people prepare for camera presence.
Yeah.
And so the skills that you teach and the inner game that is developed through your program, how does that translate into the digital presence, right? And kind of being in that square box,
right,
for a Zoom call.
Yes.
Is it significantly different than in person, or would you say that a lot of the same principles apply?
The same principles definitely apply. And yet the camera, because I like the square, because it's true, it's just a square, and we have this little space. And it's really important that we create presence on camera. We can't be sitting back. We can't kind of be like looking down over here. It's like, if you're a leader and you are showing up, you are present in that camera. I mean, you're sitting up, you're looking directly in the camera, you're addressing your team, you are creating presence. So people know, oh gosh, we're all on camera here, but no, he's there, she's there. I'm watching, like, she's creating this sense of we're all in the room together. And what happens is, and you'll see this, and I have one client of mine who we were working on the camera. Part of the program was his camera, because his team was mostly in Asia. So he had to speak to his team all the time on camera. So we really focused, once we got through Intergame and stuff like that, we focused a lot on doing camera, doing hybrid. And he was saying we are practicing the camera stuff and him being present and him looking at the camera and talking directly to his team. And he comes up to me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, he says, Erin, the most amazing thing just happened. And I said, what's that? And he's like, well, my team, his team was in China, and they're all like on camera. They're all, at that time, they were all working at home. And he was constantly looking at the camera and addressing them. And he said, the weirdest, most amazing thing happened. This group tends to be just really quiet. They tend to be pretty shy. They tend to just listen to me, and they might ask a few questions at it. He goes, oh my goodness. They are now looking at the camera. They're more animated. They're talking directly to me. They're asking questions. They're really excited. He says, they haven't been like that for 2 years. And I'm like, it's because you created that for them. They know you're present. They know you care. They know you're there. And they feel like they're in the room. Because I always tell people, when you're working on camera, think about who is the person you're talking directly. Who are you talking to? Right? It's a team, right? But look at that camera and think about who's on the other side as if you're sitting across the table from them. Forget that it's a camera. Think about you're sitting in the office across the desk, or, if it's a colleague or whatever, you're at Starbucks sitting across from each other at the table. Think about, put your mindset there and pretend they're there. And it's not even pretending. It's really just really physically thinking and feeling and realizing that's what you're doing. And suddenly the camera disappears and they're there. And when you create that kind of connection across the camera, and by the way, you can do this with one person or 500 people. If you're doing that with the camera, everybody thinks you're talking directly to them. And when that happens, it creates a connection in the digital world unlike anything. And we have to do that, especially as leaders, because since COVID started, and I've been saying this since March of 2020, because I knew this was coming, people were really complaining back then. Oh, I wish the camera, I just want to go back to my office. And I say, guys, get used to the camera. It's not going anywhere. If anything, it's here to stay, and you'll be using it much, much more. And people kind of poo-pooed that for a while until they realized, oh my God, you're right. You got to get comfortable with the camera. And you have to be present. So every time you're in a meeting, you got to be present. And I even tell leaders that even if it's not your meeting, but you're in the meeting, make sure you're present. Turn that camera on and make sure you're present, because everybody's watching. They're watching.
And sometimes we don't meet these people in person. Like you said, our teams are halfway across the world. And so there are, communication, cultural differences, the way we engage with one another. And so that makes it increasingly more important.
Very much.
To be able to establish that connection through that virtual space.
Yes.
And so I can see how beneficial that is. And in the example that you mentioned, your client was able to work with his team in ways he had not for 2 years prior, which is huge. And that's, everyone is better off with that, right?
Absolutely. They know you care. They know that you see them. And that's the thing. You see them. You hear them. That's what inspires teams. Like, they know that you as a leader, you see them, you care, and just that little thing. Think about how really little that is that he did. Like, I practice, because he and I practiced it, but he's like, okay, I've been doing this. And he was just so jolly when he told me this story, because he's like, I had no idea something really tiny and so simple could make a difference in a team. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And think about how moving forward, you continue to do that practice, no matter what meeting you are in, what a difference that's making for whoever you're meeting with, but also how they see you as a leader. That's the key, because he's present. He's there. He cares.
Yeah.
I want to follow him. You know what I mean? That's what we have to do. Yeah.
setting the tone for those future leaders, like you had mentioned
Absolutely.
earlier.
Yep.
And so, for a lot of the aspiring leaders or rising leaders that are really on this path, and I know you mentioned it's so important for us to get that information and that practice and that authentic voice earlier on rather than
Mhm.
later to save ourselves that stress and that panic and anxiety.
Yeah.
If there was one piece of advice or, a couple of nuggets that you could share with all of us to say these are the things that you really need to focus on
Mhm.
as you are on your journey, what would that be?
So as you're on your journey as a leader, you mean, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yes, especially rising leaders, as you are on that journey, and you are, and your aspirations are going in that direction. Um, Give yourself the gift of time, and what I mean by that is time for yourself to learn about who you are and really embrace who you are and own who you are, and allow yourself, and it's baby steps. Like, I'm not saying overnight it's going to happen overnight, but you do the work. Kind of start stepping into that, step into your own unique self, your own unique set of leadership qualities. Bring that to the table, and give yourself, ask for it. If you really feel like, yes, Erin, Batul, I hear you guys. Like, this is hitting home, and I know that I'm holding back. I know that I really want to, embrace my personal brand and my presence, bring my personal presence to the room, and I'm really uncomfortable with that. Ask for it. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask your manager, your leader for, I would like to do, a program doing coaching for this or something. Ask for it. Everybody who asks for things like this tend to get them. It's a lot of times people will wait for their boss to identify the need. If you know you have the need, ask for it. I know I look back and I wish in my 30s that I had asked. I had asked, hey, to my boss, like, you know what? I would really like to do this. This is leadership coaching, what have you. And it really wasn't until my early 40s that I really finally said, you know what? As I really rose up the ladder and now I was a senior executive, and I said, you know what? Because I'm stepping into this new role, I need to do some personal coaching work over here from a leadership standpoint. I asked for it. What did my boss say? Oh, absolutely, go for it. And I thought, shoot, what if I had asked like 3 years, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I say, you're rising and you feel like, God, yes, I really want to really bring my presence to the room. I'm really uncomfortable doing that, but I know I have this. Don't be afraid to ask for that, from your manager, what have you. I would definitely do that. In the meantime, one of the ways to really step into kind of finding a bit of your own voice, if you're asking, one of my favorite first, things I tell people to do, and it's easy, by the way, really easy, is take some time to think about what are the 5 things that excite you? What are the 5 things that get you out of bed in the morning? And by the way, I'm not talking about the 5 things that excite you about work. It could be 5 things about anything. But what if the 5 things that excite you, that drive you, that just inspire you, you can't wait to get out of bed? And I want you to think about what they are, write them down, write the why. Why do they? I want to understand the why. And then I want you to write a story from your life where that shows up. And when you do that, and it'll take you some time, but it's fun. It's a fun exercise. But do that. And then I want you to take some time to look at it. And when you do, and you really look at all 5 and you see the why, the why is the huge question there. And the story that cements that why, you will start showing up with those 5 things. They'll start driving a bit of your voice, just doing that little piece of work. So I'm going to give you that little exercise.
Wow. No, absolutely. Now we're all going to run and grab our paper and pen and write down those 5 things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think you also touched upon how it's so amazing to see how many people are willing to support you on your journey when you ask. Because
Yes.
by not asking, we limit ourselves.
Yes.
We're afraid of that judgment. We're afraid of the no, but we
Yeah.
don't think of, well, what if they say yes?
What
And the
if they say it?
reality is they want to see us succeed. They
Yeah.
want to help us along our journey.
Yes.
And that realization is huge also.
Yes. I love the way you positioned that because you just hit it on. What if they said yes? Because our
Right.
brain says, well, they're going to say no. So why would I ask? So we limit ourselves. And the fact of the matter is, what if they say yes? And if you know you are one of those rising leaders in a company, in an organization, you know they have their eye on you. So if you were to ask for something like this, some sort of, personal coaching of some sort of like program, whatever you want, more than likely they're going to say yes because they want the best for you.
Right.
Plain and simple. Yeah.
That realization is huge as well.
Yeah.
And so, Erin, you have shared so many insights and so many things for us to think about as we seek clarity in our own executive presence and personal branding. I'm sure everyone is going to want to look you up and learn more about how they can um, work with you and help themselves along this journey of being that business leader. Tell us how we can reach out to you.
Well, you could definitely reach out to me on my website. So that is inspirationsquared.com. And squared is SQRD. So inspirationsquared, one word.com. You could also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a big presence on LinkedIn and would love to connect. And if you do have questions, definitely DM me something. I love conversation. I love having conversations with people. And you'll see on my website too, you can sign up with a conversation with me. I am always curious and loving to get in conversations with people, especially about their executive presence.
And
So
that's why I think we connected so quickly during our
absolutely.
first meeting.
Absolutely.
Erin is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. And we'll definitely get this out there for everyone to view and learn from.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate this time.
Thank you, Erin.